All right. This is man Chris Jones, NoVACAIN Kennels. This section is we're going to talk about week 3. Now, if you have been feeding the chicken eggs, feeding the turkey, feeding quarter legs, and everything has been successful to week 3. Now it's the time where we're going to start introducing small amounts of organ meats and as well as a new protein source. So we're going to kind of mix it up for them. Typically around week 3, we start to introduce, some pork, and this is out. This is like the pork rib. This is like your pork rib. So during this time, I get some ribs and I cut them up and I leave them in single ribs and I introduce them to the puppies. With this, you're actually seeing how hard your puppy can bite down, and how well they're using their teeth and their muscles in their jaws and necks to pull the meat off, as well as to chew down the gristle and chew down the bone to be consumed. This is also a new protein source. Now, if everything has gone smoothly up to this point by feeding the chicken and the turkey, there should be no real difference. To be honest with you, there should be no difference in the stool or the dog when it comes down to eating the rib. The dog should actually at first be kind of hesitant because it's a larger piece and it's a new protein source, so it's a little odd when they look at it. But as soon as they taste the meat, it should be no difference. The dog should really go gun-ho and dive in for it. So now we around Wednesday. I always, use Wednesday as my midpoint to kind of transition into something new when it's need to be introduced into a specific week. So around Wednesday, you get your morning feeding and of your chicken neck or your chicken leg, and then you get your afternoon feeding. And with your afternoon feeding, you want to start with the organ meat. And typically around this time, I like to tell people or introduce myself chicken liver. Because chicken liver is nutrient dense. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. The words I'm looking for. Nutrient dense. It's a little heavier, a little stronger in nutrients than your turkey necks or your chicken necks or your pork rib or your chicken legs or your turkey legs, wings, or whatever. Because it's such a small item, but it's full of nutrients. Chicken liver will actually give your dogs explosion of nutrients when it hits your dog's body. So when you introduce the chicken liver, I always suggest that you mince it up or you grind it up and you put it in with chicken necks. That way you're introducing it with a protein that the dog is already familiar with eating. The dog is already familiar, the body is already familiar with digesting, and you're just adding something new in to get the body kicked on to be able to handle that. So once you feed them that meal of the chicken necks and the chicken liver, you just kind of watch the dog out. You watch the dog play, you watch the dog use the restroom. You want to get the dog to use the restroom to make sure there's no change in their stool. Now, if there's no change in their stool, what I typically do is that next following meal is give them a little more, just to see how much they can handle, but not overdoing it. Because that fourth and final meal of the evening, I like to take it back a step and go with either some more rib or go with, typically it's more chicken necks by then. Now, people are going to be like, dude, but you didn't say anything about muscle meats. Well, I didn't need to say anything about muscle meats, and let me explain. When you think about the chicken neck itself, the chicken neck is the part that's contained to the head, and that neck is doing this all day. It's looking around, it's pecking all day. So all of that meat that is around that neck and that bone and those ligaments, that's all muscle meat. So you already introduced muscle meat to your dog. You know, and then when you think about a chicken again, and we said we moved on to the legs and the quarter legs. Those chickens, all they do all day is walk around. And that leg doesn't have much bone in it. So I don't consider chicken legs or chicken quarter legs meaty bones. You know, that's just muscle meat to me with a little bit of bone. You know, so you already introduced the muscle meat. And somewhere in between week 2, the beginning of week 2 and week 3, you can introduce your additional muscle meats like your chicken heart. You know, you just start off slowly and you give them a little bit and see how they handle that, and then you can actually go chicken gizzard as well, or turkey gizzard, and you give them a little bit and you just see how that goes as well. When it comes down to the muscle meat, there should be no difference. Now you said you're probably thinking like, dude, you just called chicken heart and chicken gizzards muscle meats, but you know, aren't those our organs? Well, in the raw world, those are considered muscle meats. Organs are considered anything that secretes, like your liver, your spleen, your testicles, your pancreas, your brain, your kidney. You know, those are organs that secrete enzymes. So those are organs to us in the raw world. So, you know, your heart and your gizzard and things like that, those are not considered, or tongue, those are not considered organ meats, okay? So let's get back onto the topic. And so by now, you know, you're doing the pork, and the pork is going fine. When it comes down to pork, if you're doing like a pork shoulder or a picnic ham or anything like that, I do not suggest giving puppies pork skin so young because it's high in a grease content. And when puppies digest that skin, typically they have the runs because of the high grease content that's in pork skin and the high fat that comes along with pork skin. So I trim that off, and I just try to typically give them the meat. And if the rib itself has that film of skin on the back of the rib, I leave that on there because that is not as harsh as giving the actual outside covering skin of pork to my dogs. All right, so we went through week 1, 2, and 3. Week 1, we got the chicken necks, and we by the end of that week, we started to introduce quarter legs. By week 2, you know, you started your new protein source, which is your turkey, and from there, we went back and forth with the chicken necks and the quarter legs, and then you may have introduced a little chicken heart and gizzard, which are muscle meats. And then week 3, you have begun to introduce you know, some pork to the mix, as well as your first organ, all right, which is your chicken liver. I always say start with your chicken liver. And let me explain this real quick, and then we're going to end this video. When it comes down to me, you know, teaching, feeding my dogs, and me teaching you guys how to feed your dogs, you know, I'm giving you guys a rough outline on how to do it. You know, use your best judgment. If things are thriving and you can move a lot sooner, I suggest you move a lot sooner, but not move too fast. Make sure you feed the dog appropriately. Make sure you're giving the dog the right stuff, but don't do it too fast. Don't move too fast, but move at a steady pace. Move at the pace that's working for you, that's working for your dog, because you spend the time with the dog. My goal is just to give you a rough outline of where to begin, how to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and let you make the proper adjustments. Like I always say, all dogs are not the same. All dogs' nutritional and exercise requirements are not the same. We need to feed them, we need to exercise, we need to raise them as individuals in order to get the best out of our dogs. All right, so take your time, But move at your pace. If your dogs are adapting well to it, you can move a little quicker. Typically here on my yard, I do move a little quicker at switching to new protein sources. But I typically, when I introduce a new dog, and that's a dog that has not been bred on my yard, to raw feeding, I typically take that first week and just get them used to eating raw food, and that's typically just chicken necks. And then by the end of the week, they have consumed quarter legs or drumsticks. All right, so take it easy, take it at your own pace. Watch your dogs carefully. Now, if your dogs are vomiting and throwing up, please do not hesitate. If you need to go to the vet, go to the vet. If it's something you think you can handle, pumpkin works great for diarrhea, and use Pedialyte 50-50 with Pedialyte and water to make sure your dog's electrolytes stay up, because a dog that is vomiting and is having diarrhea spouts, the electrolytes are what's most important to saving your dogs. Any further questions, leave a comment. Say, hey, I got a question. I don't want to add, I got a question. I'll give you my email address, and you can email me if you don't want to put it out there on the link itself. Or those of you that have my number, feel free to call me. It's your man, Chris Jones, NoVACAIN Kennels, and I'm out.